Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I am one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And this is what women want in a marriage, especially mothers.
And the reason we're doing this about mothers and women in general is because it's Mother's Day this coming weekend. So we are going to be featuring some content, understanding women, understanding mothers. And don't worry, we're not going to leave men out. We are definitely going to cover a Father's Day guide. We're going to cover men coming up.
And you don't have to worry about that. We can keep it on the mothers here. And with just a good frame, I'm going to open up with the context here, because then I'm going to take a step back and
listen to me.
Let Jocelyn really go with this episode here. But from a husband and or male perspective, it's just been really important for me to understand that your needs, and I'm obviously pointing at Jocelyn, but for all of you women listening, it's just become clear to me that women's needs do change throughout a marriage. Now, men's do as well. There's a conversation there about functional needs versus connection needs. Kind of interesting to note. But really, it's just a key for all of us men to understand this about our partners, that since those needs are going to change over time, and especially maybe the biggest jump or the biggest change being when a female partner becomes a mother, that it's important to stay up to speed, up to date with what those changing needs are, especially these critical ones that are in the mother season. Mm-hmm. Because I want to be successful in my marriage. I want it to feel satisfying. And a part of that is going to be that my partner has their needs being expressed, understood, and met. And if I'm not up to speed on those changes, I fall behind and I start to not meet the needs, right? And it becomes less fulfilling, less connected. And so that's really the point, I would say, for us males to listen to this. And again, those needs for a mother specifically can change very quickly, certainly from a newborn, toddler to adolescent stage. And it's not just about the kids, it's about what the mother needs as those developmental changes happen for the kid as well.
I was smiling when you were sharing that, and I wish people could have seen it, because I just loved the way you said that. I want our marriage to be satisfying. And I think that's just a great context that I hope both of you listening take in. Our needs might be different from each other or might vary the way we say them, but we want to make each other feel satisfied and fulfilled in this partnership. And so that means getting out of our own head and thinking, well, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, and thinking about, you know what, let me check in on my partner and what do they want? Let me have a playbook to be successful with them. Now, as we go into them, I'm going to break them down. So 5 main ones came to me as I was preparing, and we put them into 5 different categories. We have a physical want, an emotional want, a logistical want, mental, and spiritual. And so it'll be fun for you to just think about those 5 areas of your life and of your marriage. Now, I do want to give this context as you hear this. You both can resonate with these. I don't want you to think that only women want these things. There are particular ways we say them, like the way a husband versus a wife is going to express this or describe this want and need is going to sound different. And so this episode is about getting into the female mind, and we talk to a lot of women in our business every day. We're talking to couples, so we get the male perspective, we get the female perspective. I also have girlfriends that I go out with once a month, and I get a lot of insider information, and I happen to be a woman as well. So this is even coming from things I shared with Aaron, because they're things I want and need in a partnership. Now, as we go into this, everyone always messages us after episodes and says, wait, Freemans, you talk about doing these sessions. How do we get to do a session with you guys? Now, unfortunately, we have a very long wait list to work with us privately. You're welcome to still join that wait list on our website. But there are 2 next resources you should use. Number 1, come meet us in person at our next couples workshop, which is in October. So we will link that in the show notes, but you can actually meet us in person and get an entire day with us going into these incredible skills and tools and conversations with us. And then hopefully you can do that plus the second resource. But let's say you live across the world and so you can't join us, then you must do our 30-day Prioritizing Us Couples Challenge. We created this challenge, which now over 40,000 couples have done, because we don't want you to just take these concepts that we talk about in the podcast, get motivated for a couple days, maybe make some positive changes, but then default to old habits. And so these give you 30 days of prompts to really fill your love accounts, connect, strengthen your communication. Men love it, women love it. So that will also be linked in the show notes, but that's at mycoupleschallenge.com. We'll also link the couples workshop. But I wanted to share those first because we just receive so many messages after every podcast about private sessions, and we just can't work with everyone privately. So with that, let's get into the first want/need from women, especially mothers, in a marriage. So I'm going to start with the physical one. The phrase I've been hearing a lot of women use lately is, I want to feel pursued. And I know that might be a word like you wouldn't have thought of recently or even described to each other. But if you think about early in the relationship, right, there's a lot of effort and doing things that are special. There's the pursuit. You're both kind of pursuing each other, right? Because you're wanting to... the phrase that just comes to me for some reason, like hook each other, right? It's like, I want them to want me. I want them to like me. So there's a lot of intentional pursuit. But the longer you're together, the busier you get, the more comfortable, let's be real, sometimes even complacent that you get, you can stop pursuing each other. Now, what does that mean? Pursuing each other means you are still showing them, I think you're special. I'm choosing you. I have my eyes for you. I'm so glad I get to spend my time with you. And so you do things that show that you really care, that you really want them. And as a female, we want to feel special. I don't want to feel like I'm just an object that's in the room and you take me for granted. I really want to feel like I'm still special to you. And so, of course, the things can range that make us feel special. But just to name a few from, again, what women say very commonly is just when you go out of your way, like you do something that's not the norm, it's not a part of our routine, you had to think of me. And you went out of your way to do something special. And it doesn't have to be expensive and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be, you know what, babe, like you told me you love that coffee shop, so I brought you your favorite coffee and your favorite scone. You went out of your way. You thought of me. That's something. It's definitely a really big one when you plan something that's fun or romantic. That could be at the house. That could be out. But just those little extras that show me you're pursuing me and you still have eyes for me. And I know I probably haven't said that to you specifically, but I really feel, I don't know, just this attraction, this romance between us when I see you like go out of your way, pursue me. Yeah, it's a turn on, to put it simply, right? An emotional and physical turn on.
And you had mentioned that there is another side of the coin. So what's that feeling when this isn't happening?
So when that isn't happening, it's as if you take me for granted or that I'm not as special. It can trigger even worrying like you maybe love me less. And, I think both partners, like your brain is looking for little signs that you still love me, not that you're just with me, right? That is not something we want in a relationship is, oh, you're just with me out of commitment. Commitment is certainly a component of marriage, but there's still a choice in there to maintain a sense of love, and that love is a verb. It's something that you are doing and showing through your action.
Yeah, and I think that's a good part. I mean, the physical ones are the more straightforward ones. So let's take time to get to one of these categories that might be a little bit, have less awareness to it, right? So let's do the emotional one, right?
Okay.
What are the emotional what's the emotional theme here that you've seen, not only for yourself, but other women?
So, a way that women commonly describe this emotional want or need is to have a solid landing to process emotions. So, what does that mean? That the way we interact with each other, the way we listen, the way that we can kind of hold space for each other is I don't always have to be strong. I don't always have to have it buttoned up, and I can be emotional sometimes, right? Like I need you to be someone I can process with. Because if I'm just going to do all the processing on my own, it just feels a little bit more isolating.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. And so, again, we are all responsible for emotions. I'm not saying this means as a female, I want to be able to go up to you and just be like yelling and be like, process my emotion with me. I'm still responsible for regulating my emotions, but I know I'm a very strong woman, right? I have a strong mindset. I'm resilient. I would say I'm pretty level-headed. And I also have emotions that come up for me, whether they're about our relationship or even just other things going on in life. And I feel safe when I don't always have to be strong.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you can kind of like metaphorically catch me and recognize I'm in a dysregulated state and I'm vulnerable, and just let me process. Let me talk it out. And tell me, don't give me a solution, but just tell me I'm here. I hear you. I'm listening.
Mm-hmm.
Touch my back. Say, hey, everything's going to be okay. I'm here for you. That, man, is just it just goes so far and really matters even the longer that we're together. It makes me feel close.
Yeah, and the way I was thinking about this for maybe men to receive, I think it's acceptance and grace for stress.
Yeah.
And for, women, especially the early moms, there's a lot of stress from various things. And I think even putting it more simply, for us men not to react to emotions that you have going on around your own stress or overwhelm or burden or fear or worry. So that's the way I would say it practically for men. Let's just really focus on not reacting in our own behavior to the emotions that your female partner who's a mom has or is going through. It just always makes it worse. So when you say emotional landing or solid landing, I think it's just, allowing that emotion to be there. I don't know if we need to say this to this audience, but it's obviously within your agreements. You're not going beyond your standard of like what's acceptable in your marriage, right? But, I've done this sometimes. I'm having my own things going on and I'm doing a lot. I feel like maybe I haven't even been getting the amount of appreciation, and then you have an emotion come up, and then now I react to that. It's like, oh, don't put that on me is kind of the feeling, right? Just allowing you to have that. I don't even need to provide a solution, let you talk it out. If after that you need a solution, providing such.
Yes, well said. Let's go to the next category, which is a logistical want or need in the relationship. And that is for her partner to take initiative and even intuitively identify some shared functional needs.
Yeah, I know I wrote that part, so that's a lot to say.
Well, but I mean, initiative is sexy, right? I do not want to feel like I am delegating to you. That, in fact, is a huge turnoff for women and can put you more in a feeling like another parent, right? No. We do not want to delegate to you. We do not want to give you a list of things to do. Of course, from time to time, it's helpful, like if there's kind of a project we're managing, but generally in the partnership, we want it to feel as though there are two leaders who can look at what needs to be done, are looking proactively, not making assumptions one person is owning it, and take the lead.
Yeah, and really consider this. We were on a podcast this week in which we were really distinguishing between functional needs and connection needs. Okay, so you've heard us talk about the islands of dysfunction, function, and connection. And where I see that there's a breakdown and a difference between men and women is men get really focused on functional needs and women maybe more on the connection needs. And so oftentimes a female partner will be wanting to express, oh, I need you to do more because this emotional need of connection is missing. And those are the ones that I think you allow for, in my case, you kind of need to bring those up more to me, right? It's because I'm not in your emotional experience. So things I can change to help meet an emotional need of yours for connection, okay, those ones I'm open to receive. However, the ones on the function, I think this is really it, that men could really take more initiative and then intuit, look at your environment. Look at what's happening with the children. Look at what's happening with organization and planning and scheduling and vacationing and expectations and logistics. And this is a shared part of our life.
Yep.
And for me to not let all of that fall on you because, you're a mom and so you handle those needs, that this is shared, and I'm able to look out into our week or into our sort of month ahead and see what functional things can I just own, not only because they've been my responsibilities, but what if I took some of your responsibilities too? What if I intuited, oh, I could take that off your plate? You and I, we share who does the bedtime routine with our daughter. And then typically the other person that's downstairs will do the dishes. And it's like, okay, well, I can have that keep going that way. Or if I see that it's been a harder week for you, even if it is my turn to put Sky to bed, what if I also wash the dishes? What if I did still clean up? Or am I going to always have that be like a tit for tat, has to be 50-50? So I think that's for me, that's how I would say it on my end, like the intuiting more on the shared function needs, that you shouldn't have to always tell me like, hey, need that, need that. It's like function needs, men, you should see those and start handling them, and then allow, I think, more for the connection needs to be expressed as you need them. I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah, and just one thing to all that's true, and one thing to underline, again, that key word of initiative, because the opposite would be you're on standby or you're passive waiting for orders. Again, that's going to be a turn off for her. So just remember that word initiative. That's key. All right, the next category is mental. So what women want/need is to feel that we're growing, that we're becoming better people as individuals, because that translates into being better parents and better partners. And so, of course, men care about growth too. Again, this is not to say only women want these things, but in particular, I know that women and mothers, we are even more attuned to like the life skills that we care our children to get, like emotional regulation, expressing their feelings, labeling or identifying what they need. And it can feel to a woman as if we're not growing, if we actually aren't doing it justice. We aren't teaching our children emotional regulation skills because we're not even regulating ourselves, or because we, just yell at each other instead of expressing our needs. It's like, wait, we're trying to tell our kids that, hey, use your voice and tell me what you need, yet we yell at each other when we're upset. Isn't that a little bit incongruent? Yes, it is. And so again, women, we care about growing. We care about our words and our actions matching, and that we are modeling a healthy and happy marriage. And again, I know men care about that too, but there's particular nuances that women are really attuned to. And so that's why women are the ones that tend to be like, babe, let's read this parenting book. Babe, let's read this marriage book. Hey, let's listen to this podcast, because we care so much about being the real deal for our kids. Right? That it's not, follow what I say, not what I do. It's like, no, that is not even true. That's not even how human beings operate. They watch what you do. They actually will listen less to your words. They're going to follow what you do. Yeah. And that's so much what they care about. And so in that, a key word I would also add for this category is accountability. Accountability is sexy to women. It's okay. Instead of just defending, why are you laughing? You think that's
It's just
funny?
funny to think because it's such a logical thing. Accountability is sexy.
Well, because the opposite is true as well. If you made a ton of excuses all the time or deflected responsibility, I would be turned off.
And that's why I was sort of laughing to myself. I don't know if I would even think that I'm just talking to you, would think that accountability and follow through is sexy. However, not doing it completely deteriorates there being any sexy time, any any magnetism, any attraction. So to me, it's the opposite. I mean, if you want attraction and magnetism to be alive, it's like you're just barely in the door with accountability. So I didn't think
It
of it
still
as
matters.
being sexy, but it definitely takes the sexy out if it's not there.
Yes, it is. And so, again, we would love it, actually, linking it to the prior one around initiative. It would be really nice if you, the husbands, be like, hey, let's read this parenting book I came across. We'd be like, what? Oh my gosh, I love that. This will give us something to talk about. Cool. Because women at dinner, for example, if you guys go on a dinner date, rather than just wanting to talk about how's work been and let's talk about how the kids have been, if it's like, hey, I've been reading this parenting book or I've been reading this marriage book, it's like, awesome. We get to have this really cool, interesting conversation and we get to grow together. That's very bonding for women.
I'll add one quick thing just so the men don't get confused on this. I would not choose a random book and say, oh, I got a parenting book.
Okay.
I mean, it might work still. But again, going to the previous point, you're intuiting what is needed and desired in the marriage and in this case with parenting. So whatever it is that you both are navigating with your child, I would get very specific about a book that addresses that. So if it's more like emotional regulation and intelligence or something that's specific to their developmental level, like, hey, it's not that, oh, here's a parenting book, let's read it. It's, hey, our child is 4, and for their developmental stage, I was reading this particular book, so we get better at, helping their language development or them communicating their big feelings, right? That's going to go a longer way towards being sexy because you paid attention to what was actually needed. It wasn't just general.
Look at you. Took it even better than I did.
Okay.
I love that. Okay. So the fifth category then for what women, particularly mothers, want and need in a marriage, we picked the category of spiritual. Now, many of you have different spiritual beliefs, right? Or maybe your faith is different than other listeners here. The thing women really want, though, is that you two are aligned in your behavior and in your actions to what you say you believe. So similar to the point I made earlier, that you are walking the walk, right? It's not just all talk. Like, for example, if you go to church, for example, it's not that you show up at church, you do that out of a routine, and then at home, you're like being rude or snapping and not offering grace or patience. It's like, okay, there's an incongruence there. So women, it's like, okay, I want to feel, again, we're the real deal. We are aligned with what we say we value, and it's showing up in our actions, even when other people aren't around. That is so important because people can lose sight of like, okay, yeah, I can show up a certain way when we're at a family barbecue or we're at a birthday party or we're at church, and you can show up a certain way because you want to look a certain way socially. That's not what your wife is measuring you based off of. She is from what's happening behind closed doors. How do we speak to each other when no one's watching? How do we handle conflict when it's just us? So it's that alignment between what we say we value, what we say we would believe, like from a philosophical and a spiritual perspective, and it shows up in our behavior even when no one else is watching.
I added a little bit to this one from my own perspective. So you tell me if this lands for women in particular. But I assume this would be the case, that the spiritual need here is that kind of focus expands both of your perspectives so that hard seasons and challenges can be seen for what they are, and that's the place to grow. It's really just about this narrow focus to broad focus. If you're just really focused on the challenges, the day-to-day, your conversations, your interactions, the little conflicts you have, what's not going well, in your parenting, and you're so narrow focused in that, then it becomes, just too narrow. And oh my gosh, why is it like this? And we haven't moved past this. We got the same patterns going on. But the spiritual lens is to really give you a broader perspective. And part of that, I think, is also either remembering or creating your compelling future. And so the more expanded your perspective is from a spiritual perspective, development of your soul, compelling future, however you want to put it, then you start to, like being in a hot air balloon, right? If you're in your car, in traffic, you're frustrated that it's not moving. If you get in a hot air balloon and you're up in the sky, you might look down and see all those cars, but you also see the trees and the whole city and everything that's going on, and you see it from all these other different parts. And so you can get out of the feeling of the micro frustrations and challenges and like being at each other, so that in those moments you can remember and remind each other, hey, why we're doing this. Oh yeah, you're right. And it allows you to be more on the same team when you've had that expanded perception.
I love the way you said that. Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone can relate to that as being powerful, that there's wisdom that the two of you can lean on, and having that broader perspective to guide you so that you aren't just kind of discouraged or passive when you're in the hard seasons. You're like seeking the wisdom and the growth. So I love the way you said that. Well, all 5 of these categories are important. And remember, this is all about having a blueprint to understand your partner, even if they're different from you or they use different words to describe their wants and needs in a marriage, because you aren't with an exact copy of yourself. And you'd probably be pretty bored if you were with an exact copy of yourself. So in a marriage, you want to stay curious about, how do they feel about things? What do they want and need more of in our marriage to be fulfilled and to feel connected? Because like Aaron said, with the 3 islands, yes, it's a win to go from dysfunction island to function. You're operating well, you get things done, you're, just navigating life, the to-dos. Okay, that's a win from dysfunction, but you don't want to stay on the island. You want to feel like you're on Connection Island. You're fulfilled. Doesn't mean there still won't be hard days. That's still a part of Connection Island. But
it still sounds like a TV show.
I know, that should be a show name, Connection Island. Or a retreat center. That'd be a good name. Maybe one day we'll open that up and you can all come to Connection Island. But either way, use this episode to learn about each other. Talk about these different categories. Put it in your words. Like we described it based on ways we hear our clients describe it, and the women I spend time with and myself, but even take it further by discussing it and putting it in your own words. And like we said, we will be doing follow-up content for the men and the husbands as well, but we're focusing on women this week because Mother's Day is coming up, and we've got more coming, by the way. And so if you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can hear past and future episodes. And if you've enjoyed at least one episode and taken away value, it would mean so much if you'd give us 5 stars on whichever platform that you're listening on. That helps. And if you can write a little review, we love reading those. And like we said, if you're wanting more support, more implementation to make a positive difference in your marriage, then sign up for our in-person workshop and do our 30-day Prioritizing Us Couples Challenge. You can sign up for the next round at mycoupleschallenge.com. You'll read countless testimonies from husbands, from wives. You'll see why over 40,000 couples have loved those prompts, no matter how busy they are. So use those resources, and you guys, we will talk to you on the next episode.